I'd like to quote you a poem that happened to the family, my dad Jack and my brother Johnny, way back in the 70s. And everything I say happened almost verbatim, except toward the end I've embellished a little bit for humor. And I call it The Steer. It happened right here on the ranch. The Steer. Florida in the 70s during the days of feeding cattle, before the packers all went bust and were left up the creek without a paddle. The Melton Ranch was feeding hundreds of calves a year when a load came in from South Florida. On it was a rough-looking 3-year-old steer. He was big and bony. You could tell he never had been fed. He's a bit salty. Had horns with a 3-foot spread. With feed he got bigger. It was time for him to hit the road. But every time we pinned him, we could never get him on the load. Seems down in the flat woods he must have been inbred with deer, because once he's in the cow pens, the top board he would clear. He took up with the neighbor's herd, so we went to get him back. Jack, my dad, rented a tranquilizer gun for the main attack. The hip shot was straight and true. A hit was the call, so we all stood around and waited for him to finally fall. But he sat down cow fashion and never went to sleep. So Johnny and I grabbed our ropes and then began to creep. But we threw from a pickup truck and a tractor so he would not spook. But his horns were just so wide we could never hit our loop. Tired of getting thrown at, he left the herd and was all but gone. So we unloaded the dogs and the horses, and the race was on. Through the woods and down the hill, the cur dog jumped and caught his head. And when Johnny threw his loop, he roped the dog instead. Squalling and yelping, that dog, he came unglued. And trying to get that rope off was a sight you seldom viewed. Loop after loop missed its mark. We thought we'd all been trumped, but we kept riding hard till the horses were almost thumped. With everyone exhausted, the action turned slow motion. Steve staggers up and hand loops him, trying to end the commotion. Now he's dallied between two horses and he's pulling us every way. And after an hour's worth of fighting, he's up in the trailer to stay. So it's straight to the Tampa market, and he's finally in the ring. All the cowboys are shaking their head. Who'd have brought such a wild thing? The jump he made was Olympic. He bent the 8-foot rail, and you should have seen those buyers' faces when the first 3 rows began to bail. The bidding went higher than we ever thought it would. He was bought by a guy dressed in red from the back corner where he stood. "What lot?" called the auctioneer, for the stranger hardly said a word. "Just keep him by himself. He's headed to the devil's herd. So be careful how you load him. Don't give him any slack. You see, he jumped clean out of Hades, and I've come to haul him back."